Hey, Coach. Great to see you on
What's
this
happening?
Friday. All right, Coach. So does Coach Cal deserve more credit today for leading a 10 seed to the Sweet 16, or would you say criticism for his team's collapse last night?
I would say credit for taking an 0-5 team in the SEC and getting to the Sweet 16, a team that a lot of people didn't think had any chance to make the NCAA tournament, beating Bill Self and Rick Pitino on the way there. I'd say that's credit. Now, look, he's got to take responsibility also for blowing a lead, and he didn't blow the lead. Shot selection, and you got to give Texas Tech a lot of credit what they did to create that turnaround. It wasn't all of a sudden one big run. They kind of chipped away at it. But this was a successful first year, whole new roster, dealt with injuries, dealt with Thero being out, dealt with Boogie Flan being out, putting together a new roster. I thought he had a really good, solid season. And just talking with him, he had a rewarding season in that you take a team that struggled and you make sure that they kind of pour into each other and he pours into them and they find a way to get to the Sweet 16. That's an accomplishment for this year in his first year at Arkansas.
Coach, both things can be true.
Yeah.
Both things can be true. Calipari can get credit for the season that they have and then still be criticized for last night.
Sure.
Why no timeout? I understand you usually go with it or whatever. Well, damn it, there's exceptions to every rule. You know what? Calipari was 35-0 in the NCAA tournament with a 6-point lead or more at halftime. This man had a 16-point lead in the second half. They lost it. They got outscored 27-11. Things couldn't seem to go right for them while everything seemed to be going right for Texas Tech. That might be cause to pause and change things up a little bit. That didn't happen. And so we got to point that out, too. This is not questioning his coaching ability. It's not questioning his coaching acumen. It's not questioning his coaching greatness because of the resume. But it is questioning what the hell he was thinking last night in terms of not calling a timeout because they seemed a bit discombobulated for most of the second half. I was watching the game. I didn't like what I saw from them offensively. This cat, Darian Williams, got hot after couldn't make a basket for the first 30 minutes, scores 11 points in the second half. I get that part. But when you look at what Texas Tech was doing and how they were flowing, Arkansas got a bit disrupted. They got a bit rattled. And as they heard the footsteps creeping up on them more and more and more, they were making more mistakes offensively. Somehow, some way, that's a perfect time to alter your thinking to some degree, particularly in a waning moment. I thought he should have called the timeout instead of going for it. And he had the ball in the wrong guy's hands as far as I'm concerned. Well, go ahead.
I can't disagree with you. Look, what got them into that situation to have to give up that lead was their shot selection. Their shot selection in the second half. Once they got up to 16 points, they settled. They needed to continue to attack, play downhill, get to the free throw line. And then what I say about Texas Tech did a good job with Williams. Even on that last play, he got a switch and got Carter Knox on Williams, who he was bigger and stronger, and got Brazil off of him. So, look, Texas Tech made shots. They made the right plays. I thought that Arkansas, as a team, their shot selection was not what it needed to be down the stretch, especially when they got up 11 points. They got an offensive rebound, kicked it out to DJ. DJ shot a quick three. They didn't need a quick three right there. They need to reset and get the shot they wanted, get downhill, get to the free throw line, maybe get Nelly Davis a touch, go into the basket or getting some type of post up. But look, you can do both. Look, the Lakers lost. They were up 16 points in the fourth quarter. They lost yesterday. Stuff happens with players. Players make good decisions. Players make bad decisions. The best player in the history of maybe the game, or the second best, all right, made two absolute blunders at the end of the game for the Lakers the other day. So it happened.
Last night? Yeah, it happens. Okay.
What's the likelihood you think Cal could win a title at Arkansas?
I think it can happen. I think it can happen because they've got NIL. They've got support. He's going to be able to acquire talent. He's going to do a good job in the portal. It's hard to win a national championship. It's hard to get to the Final Four, but they have the resources. The bigger question is, will 14 teams from the SEC get into the NCAA tournament next year again? And I say it's yes. It's not Cal versus America. It's the SEC right now with their resources, the coaches they're hiring, the NIL support they have, the infrastructure they have. The SEC, you see how many teams are in the tournament right now? SEC is not going anywhere. They're going to be in, and they're going to be competing for Elite Eights and Final Fours moving forward.
Well, listen, it's the NCAA tournament, so anything can happen in a one-game scenario. So, of course, he'll have a chance. And, of course, he'll have his teams in the tournament. Of course, he's going to be able to recruit better than anybody ever has there outside of Mr. 40 Minutes of Hell himself, the late, great Nolan Richardson, God rest his soul. But in the same breath, if anybody can compete with that and bring a national program back to Arkansas, it is John Calipari. I think he's already done it. I get that part. And by the way, a lot of people are talking about it like this was such an upset. I will remind everybody, Arkansas was a 10th seed. Texas Tech was a 3 seed. So maybe we need to pay attention to the fact that Texas Tech definitely belonged there. They should have been there, etc. But in the end, here's what it comes down to. When it's John Calipari, you're going to be measured by Final Fours and more, because he only has 1 national championship on his resume. He's been to multiple Final Fours, took 3 different programs there in UMass, obviously Kentucky, and now, in Memphis, of course, with Derrick Rose, national championship game. And I'm one of those people that believe, my heart of hearts, the Mario Chalmers big-time J coach and what he did years ago, that was a special moment. But my God, if Derrick Rose, and they hadn't gotten tired, I believe Calipari would have won a national championship. They just ran out of gas going up against Kansas. I was one of the great national championship games. I just bring all of that up to say Calipari's been knocking on the door. The only person that's ever delivered a national championship for him, with all the great players he's had at Kentucky, is Anthony Davis. We have to look at that and we have to say, okay, he can get you there, but can he kick down the door, particularly with teams like Florida and Alabama in your own conference? It remains to be seen.
Don't disagree. Free throws against the Memphis game. But one thing, he had actually Nolan Richardson speak to their team.
Free throws, you're right.
He had Nolan Richardson speak to the team before the Sweet 16 game. So he had him come into practice before they left for San Francisco. And Coach Richardson and Cal have an incredible relationship. And Coach Richardson's been a sounding board for Cal all season long and helping him get this team back on track, which is kind of a pretty cool thing, that he embraced the history and the tradition and basically the matriarch of Arkansas basketball.
No doubt.
Could Cooper Flagg be considered an all-time Duke player?
I'd say no. The thing is, we don't want to disrespect what we've seen from Duke in the past. Let's start with the criteria, right? When we're measuring individual greatness, it's one of 2 things. It's either the GOAT category, which is best of all time, and we're not doing that here, or it's all-time great, which is what we are doing here. All-time great is measured by the Mount Rushmore, which means one of the top 4 guys. So is Cooper Flagg, if he wins National Player of the Year and the championship, one of Duke's top 4 guys? I would say no. There's a case, but he's not getting past Christian Laettner or Grant Hill. Both guys have multiple championships. Both guys have over 115 career starts. Laettner won National Player of the Year. So that means there's only 2 spots open. Now, in no particular order, and it pains me to say this, but you got to consider loudmouth Jay Williams, all right? Look at what he did.
Why are you calling him a loudmouth? That's my guy. Come on now.
Because we both know he is, all right? This is a factual conversation. I want to get the facts right. But Jay Will, National Player of the Year, just like Flagg could be. National Championship, just like Flagg could have. But over 100 starts. Bigger body of work. And then as you work your way down, do you want to talk about Reddick? Didn't win a championship, but 4 years there with massive stats. And don't forget about Shane Battier. 4 years, national championship, National Player of the Year. Flagg is having an incredible year. But when you talk about all-time great Duke players, he wouldn't be in the top 4, which is what this conversation is about.
So says you. I disagree with that. I would put him ahead of Shane Battier. If he wins the Player of the Year and he wins a national championship, considering the skill set that he brings to the table as a freshman, I can't hold against him a body of work considering the climate that we live in with NIL, the opportunity to go straight to the pros after 1 year in college, that kind of thing, just the climate that exists right now, the trade portal and everything else included. I can't hold that against a player. I got to look at his skill set and the level of production that he put forth while he was on the court at that particular time, Joe Fortenbaugh. So I'm not going to hold that against him. I'm looking at his skill set. I'm going to tell you, Christian Laettner and Grant Hill, absolutely, positively, definitely, nobody's eclipsing them. You want to throw Jay Williams up in there? I'm going for that. Because Jay Williams was a bona fide star, and he was a dog, and he'd cut your throat if he had to in order to beat you. Player of the Year and a national champion, hell yeah, I'm putting Jay Williams up in there. But when you talk about the Shane Battiers and others, I'm going to be like, listen, I got a lot of love and a lot of respect for them. but they weren't the focal point and the face of the franchise per se for Duke University, as Cooper Flagg is. You've got Proctor and others there with him, but Cooper Flagg is on another level. We've seen it. We've seen him do it from the moment he dropped over 40, or I think it was 42 against Notre Dame. Everybody's been raving about him. He shows up and puts forth a virtuoso performance in the NCAA tournament last night, 37-6. Just flat out balling. When I look at him, I'm like, wait a minute. He's got to close. He's got to close. But if this brother wins the national championship, and he wins the National Player of the Year, no, Cooper Flagg, with what we've seen with our two eyes, his skill set, Cooper Flagg goes down as one of the top 4 players in Duke history if he ends up pulling that off.
I got to agree with you, Stephen. Look, we've got to distinguish between one-and-done guys and guys that have been there for 4 years. You can't take the guys that were there for 4 years because they have a greater body of work. But what Cooper Flagg has done as an 18-year-old, with all eyes on him, he has absolutely exceeded expectation. More important than that, he's going to be the National Player of the Year. More important than that, the ball's in his hands. He's the most versatile player that's played at Duke probably since Grant Hill. So if he wins National Player of the Year and they win the national championship, and you compare him to the one-and-done Duke players, he's the best one-and-done Duke player. He's the best one-and-done Duke player. So I don't know about this Mount Rushmore thing and how many guys you're going to have on it. I don't know about any of that. I do know one thing, that when you're going to talk about the best players in Duke history and you eliminate the 4-year guys, Cooper Flagg has to be, without a doubt, has to be at the top of the list because of what he's done as an 18-year-old, putting a program on his shoulder, absolutely doing it seamlessly to transition, and also the microscope
Coach,
that he's under.
Only thing I want to add with both y'all here, because I don't want to forget to say this. I'm not putting anybody against over Grant Hill, and I'm going to tell you why. Christian Laettner, the resume, but I'm talking talent. Even though Cooper Flagg's got a better J, I think, than Grant Hill had at that time, here's where I give Grant Hill all the credit in the world. Duke goes up against UNLV, the running Rebels, and gets annihilated for the national championship. The very next year, Grant Hill arrives as a freshman, and they beat that same team. Larry Johnson, Stacey Augmon, Greg Anthony, Anderson Hunt, and those brothers. Oh, I cannot tell you, if there's no one in the NCAA tournament that resembles UNLV that time, that level of prowess, and the Duke Blue Devils had one difference from the year before. They had the same team in UNLV. Duke had the same team with one difference. Grant Hill. I'm not dismissing that. I'm not doing that. That to me is tops.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. But we're missing a couple things. Number one, Duke just won the conference tournament without Cooper Flagg. So it's a really good team regardless. On top of that, we cannot discount the full body of work. We're not asking who are the better basketball players. We're asking all-time Duke greats, which means what did you do for Duke? Now, this is not to stir up the hornet's nest, but if I ask you to rank all-time great Lakers, we know who we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, and we know where LeBron's going to fall in. Now, LeBron one-on-one against a lot of those guys, that's one thing. But LeBron as an all-time Laker is going to be further down the list because of the body of work with the Lakers. You can't discount the 4-year guys who gave Duke that much for a guy who had one sensational year.
Yeah, but we're talking about the greatest players, though. We're talking about the greatest players. If you go by what you're saying, Joe, okay, well, then we got to throw Bobby Hurley in there. I'm saying you can't. No, yes. Because as great as Bobby Hurley was, we understand his resume is impeccable. We understand what a great point guard he was. But my God, come on now. He wasn't Grant Hill. He wasn't Laettner. He wasn't Cooper Flagg. Come on now. You can't do that.
Hey, Joe, you want to include George Mikan also? I mean, the all-time great Lakers, even though it was in Minneapolis? Come on. Now, look, I mean, here's the deal. The world of college athletics has changed. You can't compare like a 4-year guy to a 1-year guy, but you can compare the impact he has. And I like Stephen A. Do you impact winning? And the whole idea about, well, they won the ACC tournament without Cooper Flagg. Let's look at the ACC this year. How've they done in the NCAA tournament? I mean, it was one and done, and let's go. There's only one standing.
This was not North Carolina. There was not the North Carolina of old or Lethal Weapon 3 with Georgia Tech, Joe Fortenbaugh. This is not that ACC. This is not Rodney Monroe and those brothers at NC State. This is a long way from that in the ACC today. It's not the same.
You two going to go take a walk down the beach after you're done with all this? Because you're really lined up nicely on this. 1 year, 1 year.
You happen to be right.
Guy shows up and plays
just a year, Joe. Joe, wait a second. The guy was 18 years old. He's taken over college basketball. And in the biggest games now, on the biggest stage, he just went for 30, I think 6, 7 assists, 3 blocks, and a steal, and took over the game. And that shot at halftime, all right, that was one of those viral moments. How many guys make a play like that? It's kind of like Grant Hill's pass, the full court pass. In this moment in time, in the world we live in, this is not the NBA where you have a 20-year career. In the world we live in, to be able to do what he's done, I don't know about the Mount Rushmore.
Stephen A., final word here.
Coach, and Joe, what we're saying is this. We're not talking resume. You have to achieve while you're on the basketball court. But having said that, all of these guys are achievers. All of these guys are great contributors to the Duke legacy. What we're saying is, from a talent perspective, not one-on-one, from an overall talent and productivity perspective, looking at what they're telling. Look at Cooper Flagg. You think about you have to go to Grant Hill to even put somebody on this level. You have to bring up a Christian Laettner and a Jay Williams to even bring up Cooper Flagg. To offset what Cooper Flagg is bringing to the table. You can't ignore the greatness of this kid right here, who, by the way, is probably going to win National Player of the Year. Even though I have Florida winning the national championship, I'm thinking about changing my mind because of what the hell this brother's doing. And he's clearly going to be the #1 overall pick in the upcoming NBA draft, and he's going to deserve it. The brother is special. Cooper Flagg is special now.
Gentlemen, I appreciate the spirited debate, but your girls got to roll. Let's leave it there.
I have an incredible closing argument, just incredible, but we don't have enough time, so we'll just say that I win this one, and we'll keep it moving for the sake of the advertisers.